Kilkenny 22 points, Galway 17 points here at Croke Park. That's a Leinster 3 in a row for Brian Cody's men, who led from pretty much pillar to post here. There was a couple of times when Galway got level, but they never really looked like they were going to kick on and win this game. Their I suppose, paucity when it came to goal scoring chances really seemed to cost them over the course of the game. They had 5 such attempts in the first half. Now, some of them were half chances. Other times it was great goalkeeping from Owen Murphy, who brilliantly denied both Joseph Cooney and Brian Kincannon in the 7th and 8th minute of the game, and I suppose Kilkenny got a bit of energy from that. And this would be a triumph for Kilkenny in terms of their work rate and battling throughout the game. They never gave up. They limited so many of the players who have stood up for Galway so far this year. Tom Monaghan had some very good outings, including that game when they played in Salt Hill. Brian Kincannon, he's obviously been in all-star contention in previous seasons. Cathal Mannion was very quiet. He had Mikey Butler following him all over the pitch. For Kilkenny, it was just a dogged display, and they lived mostly on frees in the second half up until injury time, really, when Pádraig Walsh and Adrian Mullen put over one each. Otherwise, in the second half, it was Adrian Mullen in the 38th or 39th minute, and frees for Wally Walsh after that. Martin Keown, he had a half chance for a goal. He was hooked. Adrian Mullen the same in a little bit later on in the 64th minute. Martin Keown was actually blocked for another one earlier on in the second half. But Kilkenny they were certainly the better team here. Galway were just so wasteful. If you look at that forward line, outside of Keenan Fahy, who got 2 points, Conor Whelan, who got 4 and was brilliant on the inside line, there wasn't really too many others stepping up. Conor Cooney did get 1 point from play, and he got 8 more from place balls, frees, 65 in a sideline. But really, there just weren't enough people stepping up. David Burke had been carrying an injury into the game. He didn't start here. He was definitely a loss in the game. Too often the Galway backs were turned over. Their delivery out wasn't great. Jack Grealish got turned over a number of times. On the Kilkenny side, Paddy Deegan got a couple of early scores. Adrian Mullen I'd mentioned already, but he got early scores, and they had that wind early on in the game. It was something that they made a great advantage from. Outside of that, TJ Reid won some ball as the game really wore on. Didn't score from play, but definitely won a couple of nice balls. Martin Keown with 1 from play, and Pádraig Walsh again. He was on the bench, but he ended up getting himself a point when he was brought on. And it'll be interesting to see Brian Cody, who had said on Kilkenny Community Radio that there were no injuries heading into the game, but it just seems strange that he wouldn't start this. So he was brought on in the latter stages here and did well. I suppose the handshake was the big thing that everyone was wondering about. We didn't see it at the start of the game, and at the end of the game, everyone's eyes were trained on Brian Cody and Henry Shefflin on the sideline. Henry Shefflin, just as the defeated manager, you'd expect that you would stand there and the other opposition, the victorious manager, would come over and commiserate with you and say well done for the game. And I think everyone here was just watching where Brian Cody was going to go, and all he did was he celebrated with his backroom staff, which of course he would do, and then eventually just walked out onto the pitch more towards between the 45 and 65 where he was stationed throughout the game. Ultimately, a few minutes later, Henry Shefflin made his way over to Brian Cody, gave him a handshake, and retreated. Then Shefflin did, shaking his head, to my mind, quite disappointed with the way that interaction had gone, and I'm sure he was very disappointed with Salt Hill with the nature of the handshake with Cody and the sort of what seemed like a grimace to me anyway. The fact that Cody didn't come over to him after they'd soldiered together and won so many All-Irelands, 10 All-Irelands together over the years, that was I think that was quite disappointing from his point of view. And I think it's probably something where it's not very sporting. You would expect that the victorious manager would go over and commiserate, irrespective of a player like Cody or Henry Shefflin going to what you might consider to be the opposition or the enemy. At the end of the game is over, you've won. I don't think it would cost too much to go over and commiserate with the opposition manager. But Kilkenny were definitely the better team here. There's no doubt about that. There was a period when Galway had just got it back to within 2 points. Keenan Fahy, now he should have been sent off in the first half. He definitely had a wild foot, looked a stamp on Richie Reid's arm. There's another one, Mikey Butler had his helmet pulled, looked like that might have also been a red card. And also I think Jason Flynn was very lucky that his shoulder to the head of Hugh Lawler, I think that was in the about 63rd minute, give or take. He was very fortunate not to get sent off as well. So even though I felt throughout the course of the game Kilkenny were getting frees a little bit easier, in fact, the red cards probably should have gone Galway's way, a couple of them. But there was that period after Fahy scored in the 50th minute. It was 16 points to 14. That's, they failed to score for another 10 minutes at Galway, and there was 3 wides in a row from Conor Cooney, 2 from play, 1 from a free, and actually a hook shot for Joseph Cooney as well. Conor Cooney eventually scored in the 59th minute from a free, but you had to wait until into injury time of the game for another free from Cooney. They just weren't scoring whatsoever. They weren't creating. They weren't getting the ball into Conor Whelan. And anytime he got it, he was often chasing out to the corner flag with Hugh Lawler, seeing if he could turn the ball over and create something out of nothing. And to be fair to the man, he actually did on several occasions, but it wasn't going to be sustainable over the course of the game. Humorous enough during the second half, Éanna Murphy was taking puckouts from the Hill 16 side, and there was very much a soccer chant coming from the Kilkenny players saying, "You fat B, you fat B," as he was taking the puckouts, and it was kind of humorous, obviously in good enough spirits, because he's probably the least heavy player out there. But he made a couple of great saves, one from Owen Cody, who didn't score in the game at all, but was still quite good, testing his man out time and time again. And that's Kilkenny into an All-Ireland semi-final. We'll see how the result goes in the other All-Ireland semi-final, or the other provincial final between Limerick and Clare. Galway are going to have to go to the backdoor route to quarter-final, and we'll see how they get on there. But Kilkenny deserving winners, 22 points to 17, a first 3 in a row since 2014 to 2016. A great win here, and no doubt they'll be delighted with that. They move on to the All-Ireland semi-final.